Good evening, everybody. Do we have Oscar? Oh, there you are. Okay, and Steve. All right, we're all here. Great. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ross Sawyers. I'm the chair of the photography department at Columbia College, Chicago. And we are here tonight to celebrate the exhibition that is across the hall of Oscar Castillo and Wil Sands, the 2023-24 recipients of the Diane Dammeyer Fellowship in Photographic Arts and Social Issues. Yes. The Diane Dammeyer Fellowship in Photographic Arts and Social Issues is the first fellowship of its kind at Columbia College. It was established in 2014 by alumna Diane Dammeyer, and the fellowship was created from Diane's interest in photography and her passion for social justice. The fellowship creates a space for socially engaged photographers to produce a compelling and dynamic body of work highlighting human rights and social issues. Before I introduce tonight's speakers and artists, probably unsurprisingly, there's a long list of people that I'd like to say thank you for, without which none of this would be possible. So I'll start with Peter Fitzpatrick, Bora Oon, and Abigail Winograd. These three humans, yes? These three humans have shepherded this project over the last year and have guided the artists to the point that we're at right now. If you haven't seen the show across the hall, you're in for a real treat. And again, without Bora, Peter, and Abby, it would not have come off the way it did. So thanks to you three very much. Let's see, where am I in my notes? Oh yes, I'd also like to thank Meg Duguid, Mark Porter, Lauren Lacapone, Rachel Manlupitan, Rena Sandra, Cass Meek, Melissa Kennedy, and Matthew Midwecki, and the whole team at the Department of Exhibitions and Performance Spaces here at Columbia College, Chicago. Without their hard work and support, again, this exhibition would not have happened. So thanks to DEPS and everybody associated with them. I'd also like to thank the art installation team that was sponsored by Pueblo Unido Gallery, John Bannon and Ray Klemchuk, along with our Diane Dammeyer student worker assistants, Sienna Rowe and Nathan Bieneman. Yay. And Michael Green at our Digital Print Center for printing all of the associated paperwork and booklets that are with this exhibition tonight. I'd also like to thank the amazing staff at Centro Romero and the associated Pueblo Unido Gallery, Susan Salgado, Jackie Seward, Veronica Nabor, and members of the community. Centro Romero has become the home away from home for this fellowship over the past couple of years, and we're all better because of it. So a big thanks to Centro Romero and Pueblo Unido. And I can't forget our amazing director of MOCP, Natasha Egan, Miriam Smith, our vice president of development, and Marcus Hamlin in the development office as well. Again, without the three of you, we wouldn't be here tonight, so thank you very much. I've saved one person for last, and that's me. No, I'm kidding. Most importantly, I want to thank Diane Dammeyer. Early in her career, Diane found that photographing poverty, social justice, and the human condition was her passion. The camera enables her to relate with people whose language she does not speak. She concentrates her focus personally, connecting to each person, pressing the shutter when the shared moment crosses her lens. People generously open up for her, and she is very grateful for the gift they give, the gift of themselves. And we are all grateful for your passion and your generosity, without which this fellowship would not exist. This is the 10th culminating exhibition of the Diane Dammeyer Fellowship. I'm very pleased tonight to not only have Oscar and Will in attendance, but a few of our previous Diane Dammeyer Fellows are here as well. Irvin Johnson, Jonathan Castillo, and Dylan Yarborough right over here. So we have almost half of the artists that have been affected by this fellowship here tonight, which is a testament to the community that this fellowship has created and will continue to create over its coming years. It's been an immense pleasure for me in my role as chair of photography to have been associated with this fellowship. At the very beginning, I worked closely with Judy Natal, a professor at Columbia who has since retired, on the development of this fellowship. And then I had the pleasure of working very closely with another of the Dammeyer Fellows, Melissa Pinney, on her fellowship. And it has been a true highlight of my time as chair of this department to be able to engage with this fellowship, to work with so many amazing people to help support Diane's vision and her generosity. So, like I said, it's just been a real pleasure. And Diane, if you wouldn't mind coming up just for a quick moment, and Will and Oscar. So first I'd like to present you with some flowers. Well, you should cry. And I invite Oscar and Will to present Diane. Yes. So, thank you to you, Diane. Without you, this would not happen. And I know I speak for everyone who's involved in this fellowship to say that it has just been an absolute honor to watch it grow and evolve over the past 10 years. And I know I speak for everybody involved with this fellowship to say that I cannot wait to see what we produce over the next 10, 20, 30 years in perpetuity. This last 10 years has been amazing, but we're just getting started. So thank you again to Diane and her generosity for this fellowship. Finally, I would like to introduce tonight's speakers. Venezuelan by birth, Oscar Castillo's most personal work has focused on the challenges Venezuela has faced over the course of the last 2 decades. In 2022, Oscar released his first book, Esos que Saban. For years, Oscar followed members of the free convict hip-hop group from their roots in Venezuela's prisons back to the streets of Caracas. Esos que Saban has since been selected by Time magazine as one of 20 of the best photography books of 2022 and shortlisted for the celebrated Aperture Paris Book Award. Oscar has worked with some of the most important international publications of our time, including Le Monde, The Wall Street Journal, Time magazine, and The New Yorker, among others. Oscar's work has been celebrated by 3 Magnum Foundation grants, a Eugene Smith Fellowship, and a grant from the World Press Photo. Wil Sands is a documentary photographer. As a journalist, Wil is guided by the belief that journalism's role is to hold truth to power. As a photographer, Wil searches for stories that add nuance and complexity to public discourse, and his work seeks to challenge reductionist narratives that maintain the status quo. Wil is a multiple recipient of Pulitzer Center for Crisis Reporting grants. And last but not least, Steve Bynum will moderate tonight's conversation. For nearly 2 decades, Steve was the senior producer for Worldview, WBEZ's 25-year global affairs news program. He has won numerous awards in broadcast excellence and also lectures, facilitates and moderates discussions on topics related to the media's role in democracy, culture, and community. Please join me in welcoming Oscar, Wil, and Steve to the stage.
You see, when you're young, you can hop on speakers and come up to stages, whereas I will take the long way home. Thank you so much for that introduction. Before we get started, I wanted to give my impressions of when I came in and I met Oscar and Wil at the door, and when I saw the exhibition, it was like a gut punch. It was a gut punch in a good way. There's a term in biblical Greek called splagnizomai, and it means to be moved as from one's bowels. As the ancients understood, the essence and the source of life, what they called the heart, came from the gut. And when I say that I moved, it is not when I was shaken, it wasn't hyperbole. And I'm thinking about the 2nd century BC Roman playwright Terence, who wrote in one of his works, "I am human, and I think nothing human is alien to me." When I saw your works, I saw my brothers, my sisters, my mothers, my grandparents. I saw some people who looked like some of my cousins. And the reason why we're here is not for a self-serving exercise in empathy, but it's for the gut punch to be reminded that our family members are out there suffering and struggling, and we have to do all we can to help them, because that's what it means to be human. So, and then finally, I also think about, Ms. Dammeyer, how you, at a point in your life, saw the combination between photography and justice. And I'm reminded of what photography has done to shift and change our world, whether it's in My Lai or Montgomery or the Maidan in Ukraine or migration through Mexico. And what you two have done and continue to do, you stand on the shoulders of giants, and you have served your ancestors well. Thank you. So, on that note, I really want to start by asking a basic question that goes to the heart of this work that you're doing. And I'm going to begin with you, Oscar. Who are you?
Hi, everyone. First, thanks a lot for coming. Thank you for your support. I think Ross expressed our gratitude, but know that we really feel it in our hearts, for all the support we have received here. I'm a Venezuelan documentary photographer that at a very young age started moving around, curious by the world, about the human dynamics, struggles, the politics, the fight for power, the resilience of people, and the capacity of people to improve, to resist change and improve. So it's what my work tried to support, what my work tried to express. No, is more than a decade and a half. I keep it short, to don't feel that old. But working in many parts of the world, seeing these crazy dynamics manifesting, but also seeing the strongest and the most beautiful side of humanity overcoming adversity. Sometimes it's not that optimistic or that positive, but I think I keep trying because people keep trying and people keep achieving that improvement.
Will, who are you?
So I'm also a documentary photographer and a journalist. I feel like I go between those two sort of identities. As Ross said in the introduction, I'm really focused and interested in finding the complexity and returning the complexity to things. I think that oftentimes our profession falls into this sort of reductionist narratives, and I think that can be incredibly dangerous, both socially, politically, in the world we live in. And so that's kind of how I think of the work and how I think of my place in it, is trying to add that complexity back.
So, your description of that open-ended question of who you are really leads into a curiosity that I have about this project and your work with various media and forms. And so if you could maybe talk about what is it about the various forms and media that you leveraged that drew you into this project?
So this project really came out of, in one sense, our own sort of dissatisfaction with the way that we saw migration and displacement being covered, and also understanding the unique sort of historic moment we're in right now, where in particular migration is being leveraged or turned into this sort of political hot button tool, and xenophobia is really potentially an incredibly powerful political tool for those on sort of reactionary side of things. And so thinking about that, Oscar and I really were trying to come up with a way to tell this story again, because it's been told a million times, but to try and come at it from a different space and a different way of creating the imagery and creating the narrative that goes beyond just our possession or our position as documentarians, but is much more involved, and at times sort of blurs these ideas of objectivity and subjectivity.
Oscar, it's interesting because out there you have painting and sketching and video, sculptor, you have theater in a sense, and how you've arranged the curation is on point, for lack of a better term. And so these different various art forms, just mesh together so amazingly. What is it about the various different platforms that you use that really, where does that power come from, or what resonates with you?
Yeah, I think like the histories are so complex, have so many layers that photography can say a lot, but not say everything. The objects can say their part. The writing can say other layer. So I can say something about like the experience I'm witnessing, but the person that is living and passing through that experience can say a lot more, or can say it differently, no? So I think it's like mixing these languages, mixing these approaches that can give to the reader, to the public, and to the people that is out of the history, like the capacity to understand more meaningful and different layers of the experience.
I don't know if you had a chance to see some of the work, but I thought I was losing my mind. Aside from the audio, I heard voices. These images were speaking to me. And certainly they were speaking to you. And I'm just wondering how, at what point when you were putting this together did you realize that you had created this symphony from these platforms? Was there a moment, or was there at some point where it just kind of clicked and it all?
It's part of an experience. No, you are living, you are documenting, you are traveling, you are meeting people. You start like putting these different instruments in the symphony together. No, to don't play anymore as individual or isolated expressions, but that's something that together can say more and can like complement each other. We're not showing you that much, not to spoil what you are going to see soon. So we are giving you a little intro by the moment, just an aperitif.
Yeah, I would just say that one of the beauties of this project, at least as a content creator or journalist or documentarian, is that because of generosity like Diane and other organizations, we've really been able to be totally open in terms of how we approach this. And from the get-go, the idea was a collaborative project first between Oscar and I, and then between organizing the collaboration with the institutions and the organizations that make this possible. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, the collaboration with the people that we're working with. And so that's really created this really unique space in terms of all the years that I've been working for us to be sort of playing new ideas and trying to come up with new languages and new ways to sort of approach the subject matter.
When you think about the ideas that sort of triggered you, those sparks. You can look at it from a policy framework, certainly an artistic framework, and then just simply a human framework. Can you talk about, from those three buckets, what were those main ideas, themes, concepts that sort of pulled this together for you?
Yeah, I would say like it's a cycle where one move, the next one goes to the next step and comes again to the point of departure, but like maybe deeper and more reflective. I'm moved by the human experience first and foremost, if that is an expression. Sorry, I'm inventing words sometimes. But we are political beings. It's important to be part of how the decisions are taken, how the discourses influence the way people interact with each other, no? And then the artistic part comes as, for me, art, if it's not moved by that, by human and political experience, social experience, it's just an elucubration, if that makes sense, no? So for me, like the artistic reflection works toward trying to achieve this political and human interaction for better.
Yeah, I would just add that when we've been sort of thinking about this project and thinking about the context in which we're working and where can we impact or where can we be part of the conversation in new ways, the collaborative side, in a certain sense, is this whole unique space. And sometimes that impact isn't translated into policy or into broader change, but on those individual relationships, there's a feedback there that's incredibly important and keeps you honest as a documentarian. It keeps you honest as a person. And I think that's been really important for me.
That's interesting where you talked about feedback, the cycles, this continuum, right? And it really pulls into focus the humanity. But what you're up against are the times that we're in and the perceptions and misperceptions that Americans in the U.S. have about people who take this journey. Talk about some of the things that we in this country do misunderstand or get wrong. For example, the default xenophobic term was anyone was a Mexican who was of Latin or Hispanic origin, right? Mexican, where it didn't matter if they came from Guatemala or Nicaragua or El Salvador, it didn't matter. And now the term has become Venezuelans. Everyone's a Venezuelan.
I am.
That's right, regardless of where they come from. I was with someone who I'm close to, and they said, "Oh, Venezuela." I said, "Well, how do you know they're Venezuelan?" You know, they might be, but I don't know. And so maybe talk about some of those misperceptions and where that fits into what you're doing.
Yeah, basically I think like one of the weapons or of the strategies of segregation, of discrimination, is to put everything that is different in one mass. So like people cannot relate to individuals, to histories, to backgrounds, to the diversity of things, but like it's an enemy, it's a common enemy, it's like one amorphous, like no form mass and our work, what try to do is like show that there's personal histories, that there's different backgrounds, that there's like human beings with different dreams, different motivations, different, to counter that simplification and to show the nuances that exist in something that they want to show as one person is the representation of this mass, and as this mass is an enemy, this person and this person and this person are enemies. So I think like separating and giving face and giving background help us to counter that simplification.
Yeah, it's whenever you're talking about the non-European migrant, it's always within the framework of what someone's trying to take rather than what they are giving and offering. And that really comes through because I felt my soul was being fed when I was looking at your exhibit. Well, what do you want to?
I don't have much to add to that.
No, that's fine. So why don't we just get into the people? Because one of the things that we're trying to do with this exhibit and the work that you're supporting, Diane, and it's my mom's name, by the way. I love that name. And what Artworks is, we're trying to, you can say, put a human face on this, but I mean, it's deeper than that. There's stories coming at me, so maybe we can talk about who we're looking at and get to know more about them.
So the previous 3 photos, I think it were, yes. So this is a couple, Junior and Maria. They're from Venezuela. They're both nurses, trained nurses. Actually, Maria is a specialist nurse, dialysis treatment. Oscar met them in La Bestia on the train, and then we've continued on following them through their journey, which is somewhat the model of how we're working. There's a series of sort of 5 to 6 individuals and family groups, some of which are in the audience today, that we've been following over this sort of longer trajectory, and to sort of fill in the more detailed nuance of the experience. And Junior and Maria are one of those couples. Oscar,
Yeah, because for us it's important. We know it's a struggle. We know it's a very difficult situation. It's not easy for anybody, and we're not trying to say like, we know represent challenges for the people on the move, for the communities where they arrive, for the countries that they go through. It's not easy, but like what we want to say is that can be a more successful history, a more supportive one, and people like Junior and Maria, and some other people that I will introduce you soon, represented. No, people looking to improve their life, people looking to put to what it needs to achieve this dream. So as we document some part of their struggles, we want to be there and accompany some part of their success, some part of their achievements. So this is them after being in the train in these kind of difficult situations and so many others. This is them at the border.
Can you go back to that train photo? Now, I don't know what your reaction would be, but I wouldn't be smiling or laughing. And that's what I wanted to get into. How long ago were these photos taken?
A year and something.
A year or so ago. All we know, if you watch cable news, is that they live or die in the desert, and even people who are well-meaning talk about what they're escaping, right? It's what I usually say about, African Americans or, Hispanic people. They don't sit around the dinner table talking about who got shot or how bad the schools are, or all the things that you see, typically. What are some of just the regular life stories that you got from Junior and Maria and others? And then tell us a year later what they're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, first I know why they leave Venezuela and then Ecuador. They moved to Ecuador first, and Ecuador has been living a very difficult period too. But then a part of the struggle, Junior was telling me how he was a baseball coach and was at some point like a young promise, after he quit baseball. So you see the human life of things, not only like their struggles, how they were nurses. So normal people with normal lives trying to continue to live like a normal, the best life possible. Now they are in Arkansas. This picture is in Virginia when they were doing some paper process. So for me, it's amazing to see them holding hands during the difficult periods and holding hands and celebrating something that is a big step, working their papers, regularizing their situation and doing that process to just be able to work, improve, and achieve those dreams.
If they were in this room right now, what would they be saying to us, do you think?
that everybody deserves the opportunity, that everybody deserves the opportunity to earn their piece of the dream. Like, in some way, I'm living it too. I'm here, like, working hard and trying to do the best I can to improve my situation and to give the people the best I can with my work. And I think most of the people is what they want, like the opportunity to earn their piece, to do it, to work hard and get it. And I will take a little parenthesis to introduce you, my friends, Jenis and Alexis, Diana and Aranza. I've been working with them for 2 years. They are from Venezuela, they are migrants. I met them in New York. They are now part of Chicago community. And it's that, they are here. I'm celebrating them too. Like, because I see them improving, working hard, struggling but overcoming, and now, so it's for them that this is done, and I'm super happy to have them here. So.
Happy to have you. Welcome.
Diana.
You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, I mean, in terms of where Junior and Maria are at now, they're in Arkansas, they're working roofing. They are en route to in their asylum process. And now Maria is pregnant, so.
So let's get to some of the nuts and bolts about this work that you're doing. Because when you're trying to put together this art, tell these stories, there are a lot of logistics, and you're dealing with different stakeholders, whether it's potential funders and patrons, or whether you're dealing with politicians or activists, grassroots organizers, and other nonprofits. And so, and then you're also working as an artist, but then you're documenting, in there are journalistic components to this. And so I guess especially when you're dealing with these various platforms and you're speaking to different audiences and you're presenting to different audiences, different ages and different stakeholders, what have you found to be some of the challenges?
I mean, first of all, it's getting a space at the table. I mean, oftentimes it's just that's the first thing. And then making a coherent argument for why this work is important, and getting that sort of support. I mean, we've been, as I mentioned before, Oscar and I, somewhat uniquely from other projects that I've worked on, because there's 2 of us, we're able to sort of double our capacity. And so we're able to, simultaneously be doing 2, 3, 4, 5 things at a time. I mean, the amount of work that's there for a single person, I can't imagine doing it. But in 2, it was feasible. It was possible. And I think that's been our tool for sort of dealing with the myriad of different problems that come up in terms of trying to get the work both funded and then produced and then out there.
There is also something important that is like the value of multiple visions. Even if we have a lot in common, we question each other or contribute to an idea, expand that idea to something that could be more solid, more useful, more interesting. And as simply as physically working together in some places, we can carry the double of material, because some places, like here, we're moving. This is a workshop in the border, Mexico-Guatemala, in Tapachula area, in a shelter there, not in the middle of nowhere, but like not the easiest place to get access to. And so we're arriving there with equipment, with cameras, with small printers, with like the markers, the papers, the tripod. For one person would be like really challenging. Sometimes we get help from the same migrants, locals, workers, or volunteers. But sometimes it's in the middle of the desert or somewhere other place, and that is support. And that is questions, and that is like the possibility of making your idea better because somebody else that knows the history, that knows the goals, that has some sensitivity and a mind you respect and appreciate, is telling you, what about this? What if we try to, or maybe let's change it, so that is the collaboration start between us and then expand, and that has been like a blessing in some way to be able to develop that together.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, I mean, this is, and this is true for our work beyond this project, but much of the subject matter and the issues that we're covering are not easy. They're conflictive, and they're you know, psychologically on, obviously, the people that are going through it, it's incredibly hard, but then also being in that space constantly, and then also sort of negotiating and navigating the fact that we can come and we can go, and we have a different relationship to these subject matters, can be incredibly lonely, and can be incredibly sort of isolating, and especially when we're talking about long-term projects like this that take years to sort of develop, to have the sort of motivation to keep going, to keep sort of figuring out what's the new approach, are we done yet, how much more do we have to do, that's been, I mean, a godsend, quite honestly, to be working together, because I don't think we could have done individually, either one of us, this project. I don't think it would have come together.
So you get me to a point I want to bring up. You both are stakeholders as well, and so how long have you known each other?
Yeah, like it's long time because we know each other before photography, from social movements. We met in Barcelona, could be like around 20 years ago.
15, yeah.
There is Will wife that, so we were like a little bit in the same, when we were young, in the same space of political, social movements. And from there, like start the friendship or knowing each other. And then after a while, we start making part of a collective of photographers with another friend, Guillaume Daribao, that is from France. Come together for this political kind of similar ideas and questions, and like trying to approach things in a different way. And since then has been like developing several projects, and now carrying on with this immense.
So you've known each other for 20 years, so you've seen each other at your best and at your worst. So when that artistic fever gets heightened and you're getting on each other's nerves, what is that like?
It happened the last 48 hours. We got a couple moments like that.
A lot.
No, we're actually pretty good at managing those situations. Oftentimes, it just means you have to walk away for a half hour or so.
I think there's, and we understood like very quickly like the value of a dialogue, because like can be challenging. It's stressful, is painful in many ways. Sometimes it's like, no, that what I'm proposing or he's proposing cannot be done or should not be done. So like how we complement those ideas, and how like we uplift, and then how like, just shut up and go there. And like, but it's part, and it's interesting, no? Because it's enriching. At the end of the day, of course, sometimes there's some up and downs, but like I feel like in every way, my work, my approach, my reflections are better because of this interaction.
So as we wrap up, I wanted to ask.
I have a like easy tear for whatever. Oh, look at that cat. That cat is so beautiful too.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Chicago. What is it about Chicago that places it above other cities when you, when doing this project? I mean, you're crossing borders, you're traveling thousands of miles. You could have done this anywhere. Why here?
Yeah, that is the thing. Like in this moment, in this context, with the importance and the urgency of the discussion, I think could not be done anywhere in this way, because I've been working in New York, is where I met Janice, and where I've been working in some other smaller histories or assignments for media. we have been working in the border, but Chicago represents an intersection of like a huge situation in a city that is big, but maybe not the proportions of New York, where everything is like so
Spread out.
yeah, and like diffused in the. Chicago is like more reachable. And with Bora, when we start working, we start like connecting with people at different spaces, cultural, social, artistic. So we felt that, okay, we can like in some way, not cover it completely, but like go deep in the situation. Also at that time, Chicago was at a peak. So we could like reach, we have the tools in some way, we can approach these people at different spaces in the Chicago society and maybe collaborate to do work here that is meaningful for the place.
So obviously, you think of Chicago as a global city. You don't think in Chicago in terms of being, I mean, it is in the Midwest, but Chicago is more than that to you. What do you think we who live here in the city, what do we take for granted about Chicago?
You give me the hard questions, huh? Let me hear your response. I think that Chicago's, I mean, part of it was the sort of the serendipity of the organizations that we were already working with and being based here in Chicago, and then the connections that came out of those organizations. But I also think that this is as Oscar mentioned, is you know, is a big city. But then it's also in a weird way like a really American city, because of both the beautiful things and then also the incredibly, you know, sad and tragic things. So the segregation that the city is still living through. And I think that as we were working here, or beginning to work here, there are a whole series of sort of problems that we are watching develop as the city dealt with the arrival of new folks. And the way that sort of reaction sort of manifested itself oftentimes was through communities and roots that the sort of the larger narrative wouldn't have expected, you know? And I think that for us was particularly interesting because that talks about how the way that xenophobia can suddenly pop up, and can pop up in communities that we wouldn't have expected them to be
I'm
in,
African American, obviously,
Exactly.
and you know, it's caused some hard conversations in the African American community around resources and such. And so, and it's interesting too, having been born and raised here, that being in Chicago helps me to understand my place as being part of the global majority and not an ethnic minority. Mm-hmm. And so that when these people come, I see them contributing or adding to that global majority whole, you know, and making us more complete.
I think, sorry, I will say also that is one of the reasons for this work, no? Because the discussion is important, the historical depths in this country, no? In segregation, in exclusion, how that should be addressed. Topic, difficult discussion to have. So what we hope is that this project in some way contributes to understanding and to make like that discussion a little bit like go frontal, but like in a more respectful and inclusive way, no? Not a competition for resources or for depth, but a plan to improve together, to move forward together, and to integrate, no?
So, you know, events like this, they're amazing, right? We come and we're moved and we share, and then they're a one-off, and then it's over. And then the question becomes, now what? And so as we leave this space and this moment that can never happen again, to go to another space where we're going to see your amazing work, what can you impart on to us of what we can do? Because it can be overwhelming, this issue, and then you can get paralyzed, you know? So what's our homework, so to speak?
So I'm going to give up first. Obviously, there's a selfless or selfish pitch. Our project is always needing support, and that's obviously one way. And then I think also is getting involved or engaging the folks that are on the ground that are already working here in Chicago, because we're not from here, we don't live here, and we're beyond this project, we're not really active here. But there are a large network of organizations and entities and individuals that have, you know, everything from the sort of institutional work to the on-the-ground grassroots work of volunteering. And if people are interested, I'm not going to, I mean, there's a long list, so I won't give it all out now, but if people are interested, you can approach either Oscar and I, and we can give you some sort of, point you in some general direction. Obviously, Centro Romero is a sort of obvious place because it's one of the places we've been working with, but there's others as well.
What are the questions we can ask ourselves when we are doing self-reflection, you know?
You know, for us it's important. I grew up in a Venezuela that was like one of the most prosperous countries in the region. We had that for granted. We took that for granted because we had oil, because corruption came and all these crises came, and just showed me that nobody is completely safe from this situation. No? So when we take it for granted, we think like nothing bad can arrive. We think our privileges will stay there. So think like how you can prevent, how you can be open, how you can work for inclusion, and also that will help your place to be stronger, your community to be stronger, and will prevent like this radicalization from happening and destroy something that the consequences could be like we cannot even imagine, to the point that things can fall. But if we work toward that understanding, we prevent those most extreme sides from clashing and destroying the social fabric that after is like so difficult to repair. So work toward that open and ask yourself how you can open to the other and try to include and to be included, no?
Yeah, I second that.
Oscar, Wil, thank you so much. I am humbled and blessed to be in this space with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So now we invite you to visit the exhibition. We are around for questions, for comments, for ideas. We have been doing this with the most care and dedication possible. I hope you find it interesting. Again, here is my friend Jenny. Is she in the picture that I have? We have on the screen. It's about their journeys, it's about their experience, and it's about like how we can like really, really improve it together. So welcome, we'll be around. Thank you so much again, Diane and everybody. Columbia College, Abby, Peter.
Thank my mom,
Boran.
Diane. And
Will's
I also
family.
want to thank our host, Columbia College.
Will,
Thank
and
you
thank
so
you.
much for hosting us and having us here.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Reina.